Hello, welcome in everyone. Welcome. Happy Wednesday. It's a beautiful Wednesday. You can tell from me and Cal's photos, we're having a great spring day. We're manifesting spring here in St. Louis. Right. Welcome in. As you all come in, we do have a quick poll for you all to take. We're just curious who's here in the audience. Are you an admitted student? Are you still working on your application? Maybe you're waiting to hear back on your admission decision, or you're just curious and you just want to hang out with us. Either way, if you just want to take this quick poll, we'd love to see who's here. Oh, wow, this is coming in real fast. Lots of admitted students. Hello. Awesome. And congratulations to you all. Some folks are waiting on their decision. That's great. Shout out to the three people who are here just to be curious. We see you. We welcome you. Perfect. Lots of admitted students. Welcome in and congratulations again to you all. We are going to go ahead and get started since we have a full panel today and we want to make sure to answer some great questions and also get to any questions you may have. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to my colleague Shayna to go over housekeeping notes.
I share the wrong screen there. Okay, can everyone see my screen okay? Sharing the right one, right? Okay, so yeah, welcome everyone. We're so excited to have you here. So today our topic for our webinar is Finding My Path, Why I Chose the Brown School. This is our first virtual info session of the spring, so we are really excited to have everyone here, and we have a fantastic panel for you today. So we're excited to get to them in just a moment. Just a few housekeeping notes, like Clarissa mentioned. First of all, today's webinar is being recorded. You should have gotten that notification when you came in. Closed captions are enabled. They can be activated at any time. We are in a Zoom webinar right now, so we can't see or hear the audience. We cannot call on raised hands. If you do have a question, we ask that you use the Q&A feature, not the chat, to submit your questions, and we will get to them as soon as we can. We have a few staff members from admissions here that will be sort of like monitoring the chat and helping. And then we're hoping to have some time at the end to do some live Q&A as well. But please submit your questions in the Q&A feature. If we do not have a chance to answer your question, which is quite possible because we have a large audience today, please reach out to us via email at brownadmissions@wustl.edu. And just a reminder, today's topic is Finding My Path, Why I Chose the Brown School. So we would just request that we keep all questions on topic, more general in nature. If you have any specific questions about your application or just your specific situation, we ask that you just reach out to us via email, and we would be happy to connect with you about that. All right, so we will introduce ourselves first, and then we'll shoot it over to the panel. So welcome. Hi, everyone. My name is Shayna Peterson. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm an associate director in the Office of Admissions and Recruitment at the Brown School.
And hello again, I'm Clarissa Jackson. I am an admissions and recruitment specialist here at the Brown School and happy to see you all today. All right, so we can get started. We're going to ask for our panelists to just introduce themselves. And if you could just please give your name, your pronouns, and your role here at the Brown School, we would love to hear from you. And we'll start with Teresa, who's first.
Hi, I'm Teresa Anasti. My pronouns are she and they. I'm an assistant professor in the social work, and I focus on grassroots organizations, leadership, and management in those roles. Great to be here.
Thank you. Cal?
Hey, good afternoon. Cal Halverson, use he, him pronouns. I'm an associate professor of social work at the Brown School. I study issues related to aging societies and older workers, as well as social work practice in organizations and community contexts.
Great. Basayo?
Hi, I'm Basayo Akinlaye, she, her pronouns. I'm a second year MPH student here at the Brown School. I am concentrating in mental and behavioral health. And a lot of work that I do for my practicum and following that is just looking at substance use disorders, specifically in incarcerated populations. So.
Happy to have you. Bill?
Hi, I'm Bill Ifa, teaching faculty in the MPH program, primarily teaching epidemiology and epidemiology methods. So if you happen to find yourself at the Brown School, as we hope you do, you probably have me in one of your classes in the fall. My pronouns are he, him. Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Sophia?
Hi everyone, my name's Sophia. I'm a second year MSW student here at the Brown School. My concentration area is in mental health and my specialization is in management. And I am also a student ambassador for the Brown School.
Thank you, Sophia. And Hannah?
Hello, my name's Hannah. I use they, them, or she, her pronouns. And I am a Brown School alum. I graduated in 2022 and now am living here in St. Louis. I have my LCSW and work as a therapist with Monarch Immigrant Services. Yeah, happy to be here.
So great to have so much diversity here on this panel. And so we're excited to ask you some questions now. I'll get some good answers. I think, let's see.
Yep. I'm just to show everyone, we have a really simple agenda for today. We're gonna let the panel do most of the talking. So did the introductions already, and now we're just gonna dive into all of the questions that we have for them. And then as we said, we're hoping to have some time at the end to answer some live questions. So with that said, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so you can see all of our panel here. And I'm gonna share the results of our poll too, so everyone can see who's here. So we have a good amount of admitted students, students waiting on their decision, folks who are working on their application, and then a great group of people who are just curious. So thanks everyone for being here. Okay. So yeah, pass it back to you, Clarissa.
All right, thank you, Sheena. So we're going to go ahead and start. And the first question I want to ask everyone here on the panelist, what brought you here to the Brown School and how has your experience here compared to what you expected? And anyone can start.
I'm happy to start. So I got my Master of Social Work here in 2006 through 2008. I absolutely loved it. And the reason I came here was because it's one of the top schools, but that also intimidated me. And so when I came here to visit, what I noticed was people were just genuinely kind. And the professors met with me and just treated me like, someone with potential. And that felt really good. And so I came here. Then I left and did my job in Washington, D.C., but then I came back for my PhD because I loved it here so much. Then I left and was a professor somewhere else. And then I came back again to be a professor here. So I absolutely love it here. People are very friendly, easy to talk to. So I'll stop there.
I can go. So I'm actually an international student. I came in from Canada and I actually did, I went straight from undergrad pretty much to my master's. I think I took a semester gap, but we don't really count that because I was just applying for stuff. But yeah, I actually did my undergrad in a hard science. I did genetics essentially. And I was thinking, okay, I want to work in the healthcare space, in the health space, but not in a lab. And so I did a lot of exploring throughout that semester, and public health was just one of those things that really caught my attention, my interest. And the more I looked into it, the more I was like, okay, this is something I wanted to do. For why I chose WashU specifically, I actually chose WashU because number one, great status is the top school. And also it just had more options. So I could really narrow down to what I wanted to do, what I wanted to concentrate in and focus on that. And in terms of my expectations, I would actually say my expectations from like the first day to like now I remember when I first got in, I was like, whoa, there are a lot of really skilled people. They're like people who have done things who are like out there. Like, I'm just this undergrad, like, what am I doing here? Ah, that was the vibe. And it's wild because now I feel like I've really like like um like like what was said earlier, I've just really grown to love the people because they're just really good despite all the cool things that they do. And it's really great for network building because all your peers are people who are like well accomplished. And so I don't know, I think one of the biggest takeaways from the Brown School is just how huge my network has become. And I'm not even that social of a person, but everyone is just so kind and accessible. So that was definitely one of the great points of this school. So.
Yeah, I thank you. Yeah, thank you for those that have shared so far. I can go. I actually kind of had a windy way here. So I grew up in a small town in North Carolina, and then I went to New York, got my PhD in Chicago, and then I was actually a faculty member at Oakland University, which is just north of Detroit, for 6 years. And I was looking for a space where I could still teach and still be engaged in community, but I was interested in really focusing a bit more on research. And so I researched things like a lot of my work is around like sex worker rights and drug user rights, which is like work that's kind of a little bit controversial. And so I came to WashU, did my job talk, and I was just really excited about how people were accepting of that work. And I've like met great community here. There are people doing harm reduction work within WashU, doing really excellent work. I had associated WashU with a very like quantitative clinical program, and it certainly has those strengths. But I'm really excited to see how my work is accepted here, and also like the students are into it. So I've only been here a year and a half, so I'm still finding my footing. So that's how I got here.
I'll pop in as well. Very similar to Busayo, I came almost straight out of undergrad, and I knew that I wanted to go into an MSW program because my longtime dream had been to become a therapist. But you know, I think like a lot of people experienced from kind of the years of 2015 to 2020, my eyes got opened to a lot of things and I wanted to figure out how can I potentially have a bigger impact in addition to doing micro practice with individuals. And I saw a lot of focus on that at the Brown School. We have a lot of great people who specialize in clinical work and who I could see myself learning from there, and also people who work more with organizations and communities and pushing the envelope, very much like Teresa just described. So, I'm also a St. Louis native, so I knew kind of the reputation WashU has here, as well as, the kind of work folks do with the community. And, having that right outside my door, basically, I couldn't pass that opportunity up.
I guess I can also go. So, you can tell from the way I'm speaking, I have an accent. I'm international. Grew up in Ghana, West Africa. I see a few names that look Ghanaian. So, um, went to medical school, practiced medicine for a little bit, and realized that I wasn't too much interested in the clinical one-on-one patient interaction thing. I wanted something that was more macro. So the idea of public health was sort of introduced to me by some of my professors back then. And looking into potential what was out there for in terms of public health education, WashU stood out to me, mainly because like it it had some flexibility within the structure of all the things that I wanted for my public health education. I wanted to be able to combine global health. I was coming from the global south. I wanted to do things that mattered to people in those parts of the world, while also being able to add on things that are interesting to people from the global north as well, right? So I enjoyed and appreciated that flexibility within the contours of the program to be able to do that. Came did my MPH. I've sort of had a very backward, non-traditional path in my career. Went back, worked with the CDC for a little bit, and then got brought back to WashU to come do research and teach. So I've moved away a little bit from research now and more into teaching now, but research is always my first love, and I will go back. So to answer the question, it was just the flexibility and as everyone has said, the camaraderie and the love that people genuinely show. Also, the public health program was housed in the Brown School, so it took some of its shine from the MSW program, right? It's very steeped in equity, and social justice and all of that. So it was really important to me to have those pieces in my public health education, and I enjoyed that. Yeah.
I can jump in as well. Yeah, for me, I went to WashU actually as an undergrad, so I had some familiarity with the Brown School. That's a hard word. And while I was an undergrad student, got to meet some of the Brown School professors. I had peers who ended up going to the Brown School, and they all had really wonderful things to say about it. And I knew that I wanted to go into social work, and already felt really at home in St. Louis, and was just really impressed by all the work that I was already hearing about people doing at the Brown School. And so that was a big reason why I joined the program. I think similar to what other people have shared, I think there's a lot of flexibility. I work as a therapist now, but I didn't expect that. That wasn't my plan coming in, and that's partly due to how well-rounded the curriculum is, where you get access to coursework, focusing in micro, meso, and macro level work. And I found that I really enjoyed that micro level work throughout the program. So I really appreciate that. And I think that was something when I was thinking about the program that really stood out to me, was how much of a breadth there was of experience that could be gained at the Brown School, and how many really skilled professors there were in so many different areas of study. So regardless of which direction I ended up, I knew I'd have support and a good education to back that up. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, y'all. And I kind of heard some themes from everyone of finding St. Louis kind of home. People are very kind and nice, but also it's just a great place for interdisciplinary research and work. And so I think for Bill, Cal, and Hannah, additionally from what you said, is there like a defining moment though that made you say, oh, this is where I'm meant to be. This is my home for grad school, whether for your MSW or PhD?
I can start. Yes, I mean for me, well, there were so many pieces that came together at the right time. I had gotten accepted into 1,001 schools in the East Coast because my parents live in the East Coast, so they were looking for me to stay in the East Coast, go to maybe a Boston or a Harvard or something. That it's easier to come back home that way. But I think when I had conversations with Ross, had conversations with Angela at the time, and it just occurred to me that this would be the right place because looking at the MSW and then the social work program and then the public health program, it just had a very nice hand in glove approach to things where things from the social work side translates seamlessly to the public health side, and public health things also translate that. And I figured I could get a free social work education without paying a dime for it, right? So come do my public health program, but have friends and colleagues who are in the social work program and learn from them, right? As opposed to going somewhere where it's only just a public health program and that's all that you learn. So for me, that was one of the biggest drives. And I was also I got the opportunity to be in the McDonald Academy, which was like a leadership program aside just being in the school. And I learned a lot from people in industry, people doing public health work, people who were in medicine at the time. Once I got that into that program and I also had those conversations, realized that there were things that I could do seamlessly here at that clinched the more like the decision for me that, hey, this is where I really want to be. And then on top of that, when I came to visit eventually before school started, I realized that St. Louis is really calm and chill as opposed to Philly, where I had lived prior to that time. I really enjoy the atmosphere here, and that was it. I was so excited to come and stay. Yeah.
I guess I would add for like a defining moment for me, I still remember when I was applying to MSW programs and I had maybe been to St. Louis once or twice in my life before. I'm from Iowa. And so I came down and I got on campus and I was just blown away by the beauty of the campus. It is absolutely beautiful. And then I walked into the school and the admissions department knew I was coming. They greeted me by name. They introduced me to professors who actually sat down and talked with me. And so, in a sense, despite the prestige, and it is a very elite school, people here are very nice and friendly and willing to talk with you. And that made all the difference to me. Because some of the other places I had applied, I just felt like I was another number in their enrollment game, but I didn't feel like that here. And that made all the difference.
Yeah, I think I would mirror a lot of what Cal shared. I don't think there was one defining moment because I really knew that the Brown School was where I wanted to end up. I loved living in St. Louis. I couldn't imagine leaving the community. I couldn't imagine leaving the beautiful campus and like the supportive staff that WashU in general has, but specifically the Brown School. And I think also, like Clarissa mentioned, looking at the research opportunities, I think that was really big for me. I remember looking into what research I could engage in while I was at the Brown School, and I ended up doing some research with Dr. Lindsay Stark at the Center on Violence and Injury Prevention. She does incredible work around violence prevention, refugees and displaced populations, and psychosocial well-being. And so I think the idea that I could also engage in research on top of my studies and practicum opportunities here in St. Louis, it just made sense. And I'm really glad that it was the decision I came to.
Thanks, everyone. So a lot of people, we're going to segue a little bit into the Brown School in the St. Louis community. So you guys have done a great job, not coached at all, on talking about St. Louis already, and how it's become home for you. But we want to talk a little more specifically about that because some students are from this area, some have never been, some have been once or twice. So for Busayo, Teresa, and Sophia, wondering how, first of all, you all would describe the student community and the support network here.
Start off. I will say I think one of my biggest fears when I first started was that, oh man, this is like a really like not necessarily high intensity program, but it's a really esteemed program. Everyone's going to be super intense and competitive, and it's going to be a little bit, like every person for themselves. I had a little bit of worry about that just because of how high status WashU is. But when I came, what actually shocked me was just how like supportive people were in the sense where your classes are smaller. A lot of people are thinking the same thing, where everyone is a little bit like imposter syndrome, but like honestly, they just want to be friends. So it was just not what I was expecting, but like in the best way possible. And I will say, like, the Brown School has, I know for a while, like, I heard anyways that during COVID, a lot of the student groups shut down, but a lot of them are coming back up now. So there is a ton of student groups. And that I think is one of the core, at least for me, it's one of the core ways that I actually got to meet peers and become accustomed. I got involved in a lot more student groups than I thought I would. And it's a great way for building networks because you're going to make friends in class because your classes are small enough for that. But these student groups, they usually hold like a lot of events, and like we have things like I don't know that we have town halls anymore, but we had a couple of those. We have like cultural festivals. We have just like sometimes we have like events held by the student coordinating council, which is like the student governing body, and they hold a lot of events. They go to like Top Golf, and people can sign up and go or go skating, and so they hold a lot of events. There's a lot of like opportunities for you to meet not just people in your like school, like in MPH or like MSW, but like across different fields. So I think in terms of like the support system, and I think as much as the student body system is like, it's like great because students are really sweet to each other. I think the faculty plays a huge role in this as well because your teachers are like your friends pretty much. A lot of them, you have this really like obviously respectful but like casual relationship where they're really open and they're just really, really kind. So it's a great way for like connecting too, because like if you have a professor and they know this other person who's doing something similar than you, I've had that happen before where they're like, oh, I know someone in so class who has like really similar interests to you. You guys should talk. And bam, another friend. So it's just it's really communal in that sense. I think that's one of the things I really like about the Brown School.
Just to build off that, I completely agree. Like I am quite an introverted person generally, but coming here, you like cannot help making friends. It's sort of impossible not to when you're seeing the same faces all the time. And, coming into public health, social work, public policy, I think there are a lot of common values that underline that. And people are drawn to really hearing each other's experiences. One of my favorite things is like when something comes up in class and then you're talking to someone during a break and you really just get them to nerd out about something they're super passionate about. I go crazy for that. I absolutely love hearing people's stories in that way. Um, like Busayo said, there isn't really competitiveness. I think because we're all sort of just working towards common goals. People are very passionate and intelligent and warm and down to earth. All like great things and things that I look for personally in colleagues, but in friends as well.
Yeah, and I will add on, obviously the students, past and current, can probably speak a little bit better to this than I can, but as a professor, I really do work to, and I think I shouldn't say me, but all of us kind of work, right? We're trained in social work, public health, social policy. We really try to work to build community in our classes. And I always try to, we have my classes are in like 3 hour blocks, and like at least half, if not more of that class is discussion and trying to build community and working in small groups. And I think I think what was previously mentioned, a lot of the community groups, and just as a reminder, I've only been here about a little over a year, but a lot of the community groups that were sort of put on hold during COVID are coming back. And I think just in general, this is a field that really aims to build community. I think one last thing I will add about that is that I always thought of myself as somebody that was going to stay in like huge, massive cities forever and ever. And I've really appreciated, I think St. Louis is still a really solid city that has like world-class museums, art theaters, all that stuff that you get in a quote unquote, New York, Chicago, but also it's a little bit easier to manage. So you don't have that same sort of, I feel like we hear like everyone's friendly, everyone's nice. And I think that is something to do with like, yeah, we're working on building community. We're in like a little bit of a smaller place, but I also want to reassure everyone who's maybe moving from somewhere bigger that St. Louis has those same things that your New York, Chicago, LA has, just at a little bit smaller scale. So.
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that, Teresa. It's like kind of like the best of both worlds, which is really nice. So back to you, Teresa. I'm gonna like shoot it right back to you, and then Hannah and Bill also. For people who came to the Brown School from outside of St. Louis and may not know what to expect here, how did St. Louis become home for you?
Yeah, so I think part of it is we were very fortunate in that both myself and my partner got jobs, and we also I'll say we have a 4-year-old. And I don't know how many of you have children, but St. Louis is a really lovely place for children and adults. But it's coming from Detroit, which I also loved. The green space here is pretty incredible. I was like fortunate. I live near Tower Grove Park, which is a really lovely park in kind of like, I guess, the south part of St. Louis, so about 4 miles. Where I live is about 4 miles away. I can bike through Forest Park to get to work sometimes, and so And I think for me also like my, work is important, but also the stuff outside. So like having these, having the St. Louis Art Museum, having theaters around, and then kind of building community for me within the Brown School itself. Like that's how St. Louis is becoming and has become home for us. Like it's just been pretty easy to meet people here, both within and outside of work, and to have all the things that I've enjoyed from like the previous places I've lived in this city. Um, and the traffic is not that bad, so that also helps.
Very important.
I can say a word. Oh, sorry, Hannah, you were gonna go. Please go ahead.
You go, you're fine.
All right. For me, maybe I can give a perspective to the international folks. Um, like I said, I lived in Ghana for a little bit, so and then I moved to Philadelphia. I lived there for a number of years. And when I was coming over to St. Louis, this was roughly maybe just a few years after Ferguson had happened. So most of my friends back in Philly were like, "You don't want to move to St. Louis. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you going to St. Louis? Why are you doing that?" But I came, and interestingly, I think it would have been the worst experience of my life if I had not moved here, because I've totally enjoyed living in St. Louis. I agreed to everything that Teresa said about the green spaces, and you also have a 4-year-old, so it's really helpful to have that and to have people who, appreciate other people's kids and appreciate that appreciate the environment generally. Also more to that, there's a burgeoning, growing international community here for people who maybe are coming from Africa or from India or from other places and might think that home I might be just stuck here in a little bubble. No, you're not. There are beautiful communities all around here. I mean, I get invited to Indian festivals to go try out Indian food. I've been to the Diwali festivals a couple of times. I've been to other African events several times, and I think that whole microcosm of different communities build up to what we have here in St. Louis, right? So for me, having that diversity, which I mean, it's a word that is becoming almost anathema to use, but having that diversity of people and of ideas and traditions and cultures is what has made St. Louis like a beautiful place for me to live. Because I can walk out of my house and just meet my neighbor who is Indian and have a random conversation about what is happening in Delhi, and then come to the Brown School and meet someone else who is American and have a different conversation. And those are the things that I appreciate in my day-to-day life. Yeah.
So much for all of you for sharing all of that. We know some students are going to have some hesitations, and so we want to just directly ask Sophia and Visayo, our two current students, did you all have any hesitations about attending, and how did you overcome them?
Think for me, the biggest thing to overcome was just that sort of imposter syndrome where it's like, okay, I've wanted this for a long time. Like, this has been my long-term goal, and now I'm here. Like, am I ready for this? There are a lot of challenges, obviously, that go or come with going to grad school. There's, managing workload, managing working part-time, managing kind of personally engaging in self-care when you're doing community work with, tackling difficult issues and also talking about those things in the classroom. So I think I did some reflecting and I was like, dang, like I'm right out of undergrad. Do I have, the savings, the life experience, all that kind of fun stuff to get into this? But, talking more with my personal network of people, my family, my friends, people were very encouraging to me. Like, we got your back, like these next 2 years, like whatever you need, we're gonna like support you however we can emotionally and personally. And those people cheering me on kind of gave me the space to reflect, like, okay, like I'm ready for this. I'm ready to come here and to have this experience. And getting here too, like the environment is so supportive that, you know, when you have those doubts or when you have those hesitations, I think there are people to kind of lift you up and hype you up in that way.
Yeah, for me, I think there were two major hesitations that I sort of had. The first one was just like the international student status, navigating all the paperwork, getting a social security number, like a phone number, and just like housing, all that fun stuff, which I'm sure a lot of internet potential incoming international students are already thinking about how am I going to do this and that. The good news is that there are a lot of resources out there. There is the Office of International Student Services, and they usually hold a lot. They will hold like workshops on like filing your taxes or like getting your paperwork, like or just info sessions. Like the office is really helpful for that, and just the fact that the international community in itself is really strong. Um, for people in your own like year, but also for those above you or below you, there's like a really strong international student group. So a lot of the time you find yourself in like group chats, people are like, hey, how did you do this? And then people are like, oh, I got you, this is how I did it. And it's really helpful how interconnected the student body is on that front. And the second big challenge I think I face, and I've seen a lot of people refer to it, is just the issue of finances. Like, how do I finance being here at the Brown School? And I will say, like, I'm not gonna lie and say it's not a lot. It's a lot, but I will say it's worth it. At least for me, the fact that I was able to get through it. And I will also say that don't be afraid to go to the financial services and have a conversation. Like, they're not gonna like scare you off. They're not gonna like get upset at you. Like, why are you here if you can't afford it? Like, no, they will talk with you. They will help you come up with a plan, and they're very understanding. That is to say, like, obviously, you're still going to be expected to cover some degree of the cost, and it's not like I'm not gonna like say, oh, it's gonna be easy peasy. You're just gonna walk into the office and they're gonna give you the magic solution. You will have to put in the efforts that comes with applying for stuff, for funding opportunities, like looking for jobs. But like the resources to support that are there. You just have to like find them, talk to like to actually like even to your professor. Some of them can give helpful tips or like point you to where the financial advisors are, where you can find them. But for me, I think my one of the huge like resources for me was just going to the financial office and just being transparent with them of what I'm going through and then talking to them about plans or resources that exist that can help me to like cover these costs. And those are like that. I mean, I'm in my second year, so obviously I've not been kicked out for financial reasons, so it works.
Thank you both. I'm going to pass it over to Clarissa.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. I want to pass this to Bill and Cal. I think, Basayo, you kind of touched on this point of like there is some work that students have to do, you know, when it comes to financial aid, but also finding practicum and other opportunities. So, Bill and Cal, could you maybe talk about how you were able to personalize your experience when you were here at the Brown School, whether that's practicum, your concentrations, or just other things? How did you work with professors to do that?
You want to go, Bill? Sorry.
Go ahead, Kyle. I was working a lot.
So one of the things that I did that I thought was actually pretty cool was I individualized my concentration when I was here, and that is still possible to do. So I studied older adults, and that's called gerontology. So I had a gerontology concentration, but I did individualize it so I could change some of my courses up. That was really important to me because I was able to take courses that aligned much more with what I wanted to do after the MSW. On top of that, I knew that I was interested in research, hence I now have a PhD. But at the time, I didn't know I was going to do a PhD. I just knew that I might want to have a job in research. And so I did have a meeting with several faculty members to understand what types of research that they were conducting. And then I was able to start to work with one of them. Her name is Dr. Nancy Morrow Howell, and I became her research assistant. And I ended up working with her for 2 years, the full 2 years I was here. And that was incredibly useful to me to help me realize that is the profession I wanted to move into, which helped to launch my career. While I was here also, and I just want to shout this out, and I know that a few students also mentioned this, is there are so many organizations that I was involved with as a student, both in the Brown School and outside of the Brown School. I also went to a bunch of the events that other schools were sponsoring, or multi-school student groups, things like that. There are so many events on campuses that I was able to go to really make this feel like a personally fulfilling group. I was the lead of one of the student groups as well, which was a great way to meet folks. So I think I will, oh, and then for the practica, one of the things that I really enjoyed, and I believe this touches on some of the questions I've seen in the Q&A, is that for my first practicum, I was at a public agency, a St. Louis public agency called the St. Louis Area Agency on Aging, otherwise known as SLAY, and I love how they say it. And then, but for the next two practica that I did, and I chose to split a practicum in two, I actually developed those relationships on my own and then worked with the staff at the agencies to basically create a practicum for me. And things like that are possible if you're willing to put in some of the work to make those relationships, and the Office of Field Education will work with you on that. So I definitely encourage you to do that. So even if you don't see, the organization you want to work with on the official list, don't give up and try to go out and meet folks and make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all that Carl said. Just to add a little bit, from my perspective from the MPH. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I have a bad flu, so I'm sorry about that. Um, just similarly, when I came here, I knew that I wanted to have an education that immediately translated into the field, right? So I wanted to sit at the center, the nexus of practice and research. So global health was my specialization, but within that, I made sure that I was taking all the epi methods classes. I was taking all the other classes that could be offered, and those things are still available. You can be a generalist, take a bunch of classes from different areas. I took classes from the medical campus because there were things there that were interesting to me. I was really interested in the field of implementation science, and I had a bunch of opportunities to work with people. WashU, the Brown School, is one of the foremost places for implementation science in the world, not just even in the US, in the world. The thinkers and the people who frame the world of implementation science are here, right? So I took advantage of that, worked with great people. Similarly to Carl, worked with Ross Brownson, working with Elvin Gang and a few other people who are big names in that field now, right? It's all about what you want and really asking for resources to help you accomplish what you want to do, right? And that is how I did it. In terms of practicum, because I really wanted to do things that are also practical to the things I was learning in class, um, I decided that I was even going to postpone practicum till when I could find something that really resonated with the things that I wanted to do. But fortunately, that summer, the city Department of Health had a wonderful program come up, and I led a team to redesign the city's food code as a student, right? We did the whole food code for St. Louis and introduced very equitable ways of um, um, where food establishments can get permits and things like that. And that work was sent to the Missouri Senate. I got awarded for it whilst a student here and all of that. So the opportunities to curate experiences around your practicum, around research, around practice, as long as you have the interest and you have the drive and the will to work hard to achieve those things, those are very possible within the remit of what we do here. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bill and Kyle, for answering that. And I just to be uh, cognizant of time, we do just want to ask one final question. And I will say for folks who had a ton of great questions, I will encourage you to come to Admitted Students Weekend coming up in April so that you can meet Cal, Bill, Teresa, and other folks and answer your questions there as well. But just for the group, if you could quickly just say, if you were to give advice for someone trying to find the right graduate school for them and what the right fit is, what would be your advice to someone who's gone through the process?
I can start off because I may have to run to go teach a class soon. I think there are many things and I might be biased towards the international students. Like there are many things that you'll be considering in your in trying to estimate or judge where to go to. I'm sure funding is one of the big things that you will consider. But don't let that be the bottleneck to making the decision, right? As Abusayo alluded to earlier on, there are opportunities to really navigate those conversations at the Brown School. For me, what I will look at is what is the type of education or what is the type of experience that I want, right? What do I want my education to look like? You're going to get a degree at the end of 2 years or at the end of 4 or 5 years if you're a PhD student, or if you're a dual degree student, 3 years. But what type of education do you want? What types of experiences do you want to have, right? And go on from there. If you want experiences that are enriching, that are diverse, that show you forth as someone um who comes forth as someone who can be in spaces and can hold your own, then the Brown School is the place for you, right? If you want a world-class education, but that also at the end of the day makes you still a human, then the Brown School is the place for you. So don't just like limit yourself to, okay, well, this school is giving me 50,000, this school is not giving me anything. Those conversations are important, but go beyond that and look at what experience kind of experiences you want for your education and make the decision that way. Right.
I'll jump in because awkward silence makes me uncomfortable. But what I will say is, trust this jumps off of what Bill said too, but trust your gut with this. Like I visited a bunch of schools, and when I came to WashU and I talked with people and I saw the campus, it felt like home. And this is a minimum 2-year commitment. For some people, if you're advanced standing, maybe it's a year and a half or so. And correct me if I'm wrong, Shane or Clarissa. But for some people to take part-time programs, it's going to take a little bit longer. So you're going to be here for a while and you want to make sure you're happy. And so what I liked about this is it's a gorgeous campus, which does actually mean a lot to me because I'm going to spend a lot of time on campus. I really liked the professors. They actually knew my name. That makes a big difference to me. And St. Louis itself is a really nice place to live. And I know people always talk about the St. Louis Arch. That's pretty cool, don't get me wrong. But really an unsung hero here is just what Teresa said, the green spaces. Forest Park is absolutely amazing. Tower Grove Park, absolutely amazing. The fact that you can get free admission to the zoo, art museum, history museum, science museum, it's just a phenomenal place to live, especially for your graduate program, because the living in the city part doesn't have to be that hard, so you can focus on your life as a student.
Yeah, I guess I'll go. And as somebody that admittedly did not go to WashU, the way I approached it is I wanted to see where I felt I wanted a world-class education in a place where I felt comfortable. Also, I would recommend reaching out to professors in one way. And I know that can be a very intimidating process, which I say, like, don't be intimidated, but I'd say like one thing I recommend for whether you're contacting me or someone else is just say like, hey, I'd love to have a quick chat with you about the school. I'd love to hear about like research opportunities or practicum opportunities. And I also want to say that not every professor can offer, paid research opportunities at that point. But it's a conversation that you can absolutely have. So I'd say like reach out to a few professors whose work you're interested in. And don't be intimidated. It's actually quite flattering, right? When people do that. But one recommendation I would make is to tailor your letter to a specific professor. What I wouldn't do is just make a generic letter and send it to a bunch of people, because we're very busy, and we might see that and be like, okay, we'll get to that later. But if you tailor it to a professor, I think you might be, and that's what I did. I reached out to a few professors, not all of them, but a few professors whose work I was really interested in, and just like, hey, do you mind having a quick phone chat or now, a Zoom chat, about the school and what I can expect here. And I think, and I'm not saying like, and do that to as many schools that you were admitted to. And yeah, I think what was said, yeah, go with your gut, see what feels comfortable to you.
I think for me, I definitely say there are a ton of resources at the Brown School, and one of the biggest tip I would give students is like look for them because there's most likely there they are most likely there. If you think of a question like, oh, is there a resource that does blah 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 blah, it probably exists because there's just so much. And I was like reading some of the Q&A, and I know there were a couple of questions about things like, oh, on-campus jobs. Like, no, they are there. And you just need to, if you look, you will find it, is one of the things that I found. And actually one of the things I wish like used better in the earlier parts of my time, especially for international students when I was struggling with like, where do I go for this? How do I go for that? If you just like, and sometimes if you don't know where to start, I think a good place to start is like asking your peers and also your professors. Like a lot of the opportunities, like if you just, even if someone doesn't know, they might know someone who might know, and eventually you'll get to where the resource is. So my biggest tip is just like seek out those resources, and I'm so certain you will find them because Brown School has a lot. So yeah.
Yeah. And I would say, in addition to everything that everyone's already shared about how wonderful I think St. Louis is as a place to live, I have thinking about, yeah, the education, but also what's the community that you'll be joining. And I love the community of St. Louis. There's so many free community events to attend, coffee shops. It feels like I didn't expect to live here in St. Louis after I graduated. And that's partly because I felt so at home here, but also because the Brown School really like set me up well with my practicum experiences. And there's so many job opportunities here within social work that I think is also something to consider. And having been at the Brown School, I was able to make connections with local agencies and possible employers. Whether you're planning on staying in St. Louis or not, you still have that network and that experience. But I really found it to be, yeah, I think considering wherever you're looking, both at the community that you'll be joining, the job opportunities, the research opportunities, as well as like specific coursework, reaching out to professors, all of that. Yeah.
I 100% agree with all the advice that other folks have given. The only thing I would add, which other people have kind of said in different ways, is, choose a place where you can see yourself being happy. I think there's this stereotype about grad school that you put your head down and grind for 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it is, and you have no life except go to class, go home, write papers, all that stuff. But no, you're still a person and you still deserve to have an enjoyable grad school experience. So find a place that has, the people, the resources, the amenities, the activities that you think that you can see yourself being happy with.
I love that. Great note to end on, Sophia. So we are way over time. We're so sorry about that, but thank you so much to all the panelists and the attendees for staying on. There's just so much knowledge and wisdom on this group of folks. So could ask you questions for 2 more hours, but we're not going to make you stay for that. Two quick things we really want to plug before we let everyone go. Admitted Student Weekend, like Clarissa said, is April 4th and 5th, coming up in just a month. And then we have a few other virtual info sessions coming up this spring. The next one is March 26th in just a couple of weeks. And we'll be talking about St. Louis. So you'll learn even more about St. Louis on that one. But with that, Cal, Hannah, Teresa, Busayo, Sophia, Bill, I think I got everyone. Thank you all so much for sharing your wisdom and your experiences and your journeys with the Brown School and to the Brown School. And yeah, we just appreciate all of you, and we appreciate everyone for attending today. So take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Thank you.